escaping the realm of darkness. The paranormal guys are on a quest to find the answers to the hard questions of where the normal meets the paranormal and the weird, and where the natural meets the unnatural. So grab your holy water, call your mama, and get ready for the Paranormal Guys podcast.
All right. Today's date is 4/3/24. For those who don't use numbers, today is April 3rd, 2024.
And for those that don't use words or numbers, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Today's episode is going
You're
to
a very special person.
You're a very special person. Yes. So today's episode, Steve, is going to be with Dr. Fredrick Woodard. He, very, very cool conversation. Really cool dude. He's a psychologist, doctor of philosophy in clinical psychology, and a doctor of clinical hypnotherapy, registered certified hypnotherapist, and a parapsychologist. A lot of great conversation about hypnotism,
Hypnosis,
and parapsychology. Just a really good, nice guy to be talking with. But until we get into that, of course, me and Steve are going to go ahead and kick the can down the street here and talk a little bit. Steve, what's new and different with you? Anything?
I've been practicing my telepathy skills.
Ooh, you got telepathy skills.
I'm practicing them. I'm working on them. So far, it only works with plants, but there's not a whole lot that
Please
they say.
do tell. Please.
They don't really say much, but
explain. You got me intrigued here, my friend.
Like, I'll just be like in my mind, hi, to the plant, and then it doesn't really do anything, you know? It doesn't really say much. But it's all in telepathy, so I'm not sure if I'm good at it or maybe they're just being quiet. But yeah, it doesn't work on anything else, just plants.
All right, so let me get this right. You're projecting your thoughts to a plant. What type of plant are we talking here?
Like an orchid.
An orchid?
Yeah, I got an orchid here.
Okay. All right, so you're projecting your thoughts out to that orchid right there.
Yeah.
And what are you saying to the orchid?
I'm like, hi, orchid.
That's
and
it?
Doesn't say anything back.
Well, I don't expect it, but does it do any motion? Does it?
No, nothing. I only got the part where I send out the message. I don't have the part where I get it back yet. But I'm practicing. I'm working on it.
Yeah, keep practicing, Steve. Just keep practicing, man. When you're up late at night and you're not doing anything, you got nothing going on, just
I don't know.
In your office.
I'm kind of being, silly about it. But look, I have no like psychic abilities at all, and everybody and their mama has a gift, a gift. I have no gift,
if you will.
Oh, I hear the voice of spirits in my left ear. Oh, guess what?
Now we're making fun of Neil. Yeah.
I'm going deaf in both of mine. So, so
I can't hear crap.
I'm practicing telepathy skills. Not really. I don't have any. But wouldn't it be cool? Have you heard about the brain chip that Elon Musk?
Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah, I did.
And he promises, allegedly, I guess, that these chips will allow you to transfer thoughts back and forth to each other, like, over the net. You just think something and you don't have to get the phone. You don't have to call somebody. You just think a message to them and they get it, through the brain chip interface.
It would be some kind of, understand, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not a brain surgeon, but just from little things that I read is that they would go into the part of the brain where they could open up where we would basically have telepathy.
No. What it would be is that they take that part of your brain that thinks something and then it sends it digitally over the technological frameworks that are out there.
Well, that's like telepathy.
But it's not like unlocking a natural telepathy, like on a quantum level. It's more of like, oh, I'm going to translate that thought into some ones and zeros and then like making a phone call, it would just call the chip in somebody else's brain, and they would from the chip to get the message like telepathy, um, artificial telepathy, AT, artificial telepathy. I made that up just now.
Oh,
The term AT,
I wouldn't
but
know. I wouldn't know the difference.
no, but the chip is real. The Elon Musk thing and the telepathy thing is real. But
Oh, I remember hearing that. Yes.
me calling it AT is, I don't know if they actually call it AT. I made that acronym up just now on the
I
fly.
could probably
So
steal
I'm
it from you
super
now.
smart without a chip.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think of that? Like,
I actually like it. Think about this. Think about this. I then, if I get this, and Mr. Elon Musk, if you're hearing me, I will
he
be.
watches our show,
Oh yeah, listens too.
right? No, the Chinese Elon Musk. You ever see that guy?
Yeah, you showed me that.
We
Yeah.
got to bring him on one of the next episodes. We'll do a little thing for
Now,
him.
actually, this would be. I would love to be a patient who would like to go through the treatment. Uh,
The
I would like
implant.
to be a volunteer for this experiment.
You want a brain chip implant?
I'll tell you why. If
Why?
I can and it works, I could be sitting on my couch and I can send a message to my wife to make a sandwich.
And she can send a message back,
Make it yourself.
middle finger emoji. You'll see like a middle finger emoji in your mind. Like, oh,
Or think about this: is like you're waking up. You're waking up and your alarm's going off, and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to work today. Let's send a message to work. I'm not coming to work today. Today's an FMLA day. Today's an FMLA day. Today's a medical. Sending a message. I'm like this, and it sends out that. Then I'm just laying there and I can go back to sleep. That would be a benefit. Yes.
I don't know. But I mean, do we do that already? Like most people? I don't. But like, do you feel like people are kind of communicating subconsciously with each other? Do you ever do this thing where you're like, you think of somebody all of a sudden out of the blue, you haven't thought of them in a while, and they call you? Like,
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. No, things like that are very real. Like all of a sudden you'll be thinking about somebody and all of a sudden you see them at the grocery store.
right.
Yeah. Weird things have happened like that. Definitely.
Yeah. Little
And
synchronicities and all of that. Is that telepathy or is it coincidence? I don't know. But I think that we have enough voices. um,
you want to know what's odd is I was just watching a movie last night and parts of it had to deal with because I know you and I have had many conversations, and part of the conversation today with Dr. Fredrick is about that inner voice. I
mhm.
believe we talked about that.
Yep.
Is it our ego
Right.
that we're hearing? And we sometimes people like to think, "Oh my God, it's the devil talking to me,"
It is.
but or is it just your ego and you
What's the
don't
difference?
realize it? That's the problem. Is
Yeah.
what's the difference? When do you recognize it? That's actually the big question, the $1 million question is who is it? How do you know it's an ego? How do I recognize it? I mean, that's the big question.
Now, I remember like a little bit back on one of the news things that I did. Um, we talked about how companies were monitoring your chat,
Yeah.
like your inner office chat and email, and then they're measuring sentiment about work
Mhm.
um, using AI. Now, th- enter the brain chip, telepathy, sending data in your mind,
Yeah.
like, and then take that outside the workplace and make it like uh, society. And now you've got like a social credit score system based on your thoughts.
Right.
If you start having thoughts about, this or that, then your score goes down. And, if you're not thinking the right thought, you can't buy groceries. If you, it, there's just a point where we have to be really, really careful about where we go from here and what we sign up for. So, signing up for that chip to get a sandwich, I know we're joking, but it's like, you think about it before really doing it, because it would be fun to have telepathy, but
At what price?
at what price? I think I'm
And
going to.
what I mean by price is you really don't know what it's going to do to your human body.
Yeah,
You don't know if it's something's how or another. We talk about AI, right?
right.
And all of a sudden, you start hearing an inner voice. And
Can you
it's not
imagine
yours,
if that turned like evil, and
right?
it was AI devil?
Yeah. It's like, Neil, go ahead and eat that chocolate bar. Don't worry about your diabetes. It's all good, man. You're cured, man.
Mwahahaha. Emoji. You got a little devil emoji.
I see it. Go ahead, Neil. Eat the Reese's. It's all good.
What's going on with you, though?
Not too much, man, to be honest with you. We're getting close to springtime. Well, it is springtime. It's April, and that's the one thing I love about this time of year is, you start smelling the flowers. There's rain showers,
Mhm.
rain, April showers brings May flowers type thing. And, it's nice to be able to smell those smells of spring. So I enjoy it. Not too
Like
much going on, but I do like the
rainstorms,
brainstorms.
blooming flowers, grass,
Yeah.
fresh cut grass.
Things to look forward to.
Right.
Yeah. More manual labor. Yes. Yes. Yeah. My wife loves me doing the manual labor. Sometimes
Yeah.
she calls me Emmanuel. And I go, what?
Emmanuel.
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 All right.
Take out
So
the
let's get
trash.
into some of the news. Today I'm going to let Steven start off.
Oh
Today is
boy.
Steven's day. Today is
Steve's
Steven's
Day.
day. All
I
right,
have
ready?
Yeah, it's a kind of I know I've been kind of on the technology kick, but
Hold
again,
on, I gotta do my thing here.
oh, do your thing and then edit that
Gosh,
out
come on,
so we
man.
look professional. Let's look professional.
Professionals.
What do we got?
All
That
right.
was really professional.
Professionally
I
done.
I
Please,
love
Steve.
it.
You're first.
Okay. So, there's a thing that I like to talk about. It's called technology. I'm sorry, I've been talking about that a lot lately, but it's interesting, isn't it? The world we live in and what's going on. And we have AI, right? And we've had it for a while, and now we're kind of looking at the world, and looking at things that where AI might help us and such. Well, there was an experiment done, and they took the AI technologies that exist today
Hmm.
and started interacting them through them being like a chatbot and answering
Yeah.
questions and giving simulated scenarios. And these AI chatbots have a tendency, they noticed, to choose violence and nuclear strikes during war games.
What?
Yeah.
Just like that
Um,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to play a game?
Do you want to play a game?
Yes. Global thermonuclear war. What a strange game. The only way to win is not to play. But that wasn't the computer in War Games, the movie with Matthew Broderick that we're referring to. Um, it's kind of an old movie for the people who are young today.
Hmm.
When was that? 80s?
I think it was 1983.
Oh, 19, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, if I remember right, I'm actually pretty darn good at movies, man.
Hmm.
When they came out, anything 80s, early 90s, anything nostalgic, pop culture, I'm pretty good at. So I would say it was 1983 that movie came out. It
Yeah.
was Matthew
Really,
Broderick.
really good advice at the end of the movie. It said the only way to win is not to play, right? And that kind of set the pace for nuclear war. You know, it's sort of the mutually assured destruction, MAD, they used to call it.
Yeah,
So we had weapons, they had weapons. No one's going to use it because we're all going to be destroyed. And now even the AI is kind of going, well, a tactical nuke, um, weapon could be used. It's not going
yeah.
to kill everybody, and you could probably win a war real quick. And but I think once you open that floodgate, you start playing the game, and you can't win that game.
No, there'd be devastation.
You just the only way to win is not to play a nuclear war game. But we got to be careful with technology. We can't lean on it too hard. We can't let it make decisions for us, or we're all going to die in nuclear fire. Anyway, that's my story. Have a nice day, folks.
And that's some sound advice from Steve Lineweber. If you don't want to have a nuclear war, don't play the game.
Don't play with fire.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, it's an interesting thing. I mean, that all of a sudden AI takes over something like that. That would be catastrophic, and that would be just horrible, of course.
What do you think is more dangerous, Neil? Nuclear bombs or artificial intelligence?
Wow, that's a difficult question. Number one, nuclear bombs. We know what a nuclear bomb can do to people. The destruction of a nuclear bomb. Yes.
Yeah, cook them.
We don't truly know what destruction actually AI is capable of, because it's actually new. But a lot of people's thoughts are like, take for instance, we did a news thing on the young man who made his own dating app. Okay,
Yeah,
it takes the thought of the person to make something go forward, to create
his intent.
Okay, so there's a lot of intentions that can happen: good, bad, ugly.
Right.
So I really don't know, but what to me, because of what the knowledge I have, I think a nuclear war would be horrible. I
Right.
mean, we don't know what kind of fallout would happen, how many people would survive, and they have all this radiation burns. I think so. I'm going to answer nuclear at this time.
Nuclear bomb. Yeah. But it's interesting because, like, these technologies, they kind of have a double-edged sword type of quality. Nuclear science allows us to do a lot of things. We get energy from it, from nuclear power plants and such. Then we also see the downside of that when something goes wrong, like with
Yeah.
Fukushima. AI can help us with this. You bring up a great point, Neil. Because AI can help us with something, but it can also probably be destructive in the wrong hands, right? But it's all about intent, and so it really just boils down to intent. It's all up to us where we go from here.
Yeah. So stay tuned on this idea. We're going to try to keep up to date with this stuff, and hopefully nothing bad will happen. There won't be what was it called? Star in the Terminator. What was it called?
Skynet.
Skynet. We don't have a Skynet
From Cyberdyne Systems.
Cyberdyne. Yeah, Cyberdyne.
You remember the model he was?
Yeah, he was
the
a
original?
Terminator 1000, right? Or
No, he's
700?
a T800.
All right.
Was he T800?
I thought it was 700.
And the 600s were the rubber skin.
Whatever. It's bad. It's bad. It's all bad.
Ought to be bought.
All right. So my news article is an interesting article. It deals with Amelia Earhart. A couple of years ago, me and Steve actually went to the Amelia Earhart Museum in Atchison, Kansas, because we went to the Sally House, which is basically like right around the block from it. And they do a tremendous job at the Amelia Earhart Museum. And as you see in this picture here is Amelia Earhart, very pretty girl. I'm
actually surprised. I heard her story, but she's kind of pretty face.
Yeah. But the story that we're going to talk about here is from our buddy, our pal, Mr. Tim Banal, who was from Coast to Coast AM. He does the news for them, and he's also got his podcast called Banal of America. He was on our podcast, and then we appreciated it. So this comes from Tim Banal. The family of Amelia Earhart has responded to the possible discovery of the legendary aviator's lost plane, and in doing so expressed a rather surprising amount of optimism about the potential breakthrough in the decades-old mystery. The intriguing development, which made headlines last month, came in the form of a sonar photo of anomaly that bears a striking resemblance to a small aircraft sighting on the floor of the Pacific Ocean. It's in about the right place, Earhart's great-nephew, Bram Klepner, observed the Independent. It looks like a plane. To that end, he indicated that if the anomaly is the elusive aircraft, the family would likely have it salvaged and put on display at the Smithsonian Museum. With that being said, Since the plane may be located in international waters, the company behind the expedition that located it would have legal ownership because they found it of the priceless relic. And one imagines they would likely get they would get recouped at the price of about 11 million,
Oh,
and they
wow.
spent searching for the plane. So should Earhart's remains be found within the suspected aircraft, that means her body, her family would prefer that she would be buried in her hometown of Atchison, Kansas, which me and Steve visited.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
That place is haunted.
Yeah. Atchison, Kansas, I loved it. I remember me, you, and Michelle, we were out there.
Yeah.
We went on this little choo-choo train.
Yeah.
Me and Michelle went on this choo-choo train.
Uh-huh.
And the museum was really great. I mean, can we finally find some closure here for these people? That would be nice. I mean, you have all these conspiracy theories about Amelia Earhart. We've talked about it, that she was a spy and she died this way, she died that way, or she could still be alive. There's a lot of conspiracy. Can we just put this to rest? Maybe it is, or hopefully maybe one day we come up with the truth about that. So that's the news that I have for today. And once again, if you ever get a chance, go to Atchison, Kansas, and check out they do a great job at the Amelia Earhart Museum. It's beautifully well done, beautiful home that she grew up in, beautiful house.
It is a beautiful house. It's a nice place to be after going to the Sally House. Sort of like the Sally House just had creepy vibes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you go to the Amelia Earhart home. It's actually it's nice. It's pleasant. There's nothing.
It is. And the lady there, she was very nice to me and Steve, and it was just a nice time. So I recommend that. And
there's like a river right there.
And there is. There's a river not too far.
Beautiful landscape.
Yeah, beautiful landscape. Huge.
Yeah,
just beautiful. But I recommend it to people, and hopefully they can get some closure. So up next, we're going to have Dr. Fredrick Woodard. Once again, great conversation with the man. We wanted to find out about hypnosis, paranormal. He has a couple books out. We'll be talking about that within the interview. So stand by next for the Paranormal Guys with Dr. Fredrick Woodard. And boo.
Hey there. If you're on the hunt for some captivating podcasts about the supernatural, paranormal, aliens, or anything that'll send shivers down your spine, the Paranormal Guys podcast has you covered. Find them on various streaming platforms, and don't forget to check out them on YouTube channel at Graveside Paranormal. Happy listening, and boo.
Back to the Paranormal Guys podcast.
All right, Steve, we're back, and thank you for those messages from Graveside Paranormal as well as the Paranormal Guys podcast. Steve, tonight we have special guest, Dr. Fredrick Woodard. He has 3 master's degrees in different areas of psychology and a PhD in clinical psychology. He is also a licensed psychologist and a certified hypnotherapist. Dr. Woodard, he was voted Hypnotist of the Year in 2021.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know, right? In Merrimack, Sovenho Valley, I probably said that wrong, Valley Regions in New Hampshire Chamber of Commerce. So I'm going to bring in Dr. Woodard at this time and welcome him in. Doc, hello, how are you?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, once again, thanks for
being here with us. Yeah, this is exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was talking to you a little bit before we brought you in, Doctor, and I had a little bit of background in hypnosis. So this is super exciting for me because I don't have all the degrees and everything. More of a layman, although I've helped people quit smoking, right? But hypnosis is amazing. Yep.
How this actually started, I started searching for people, Doctor, is that Steve was telling me about the guy who taught him how to be a hypnotist. Okay. What was his name? Larry what?
Oh yeah, my first exposure to hypnosis was with Mr. Larry Garrett here in Chicago, Illinois. Great guy. He's been in business forever, doing this, and he actually wrote a book about going to Iraq, and it was called "Healing the Enemy." He actually hypnotized Uday Hussein, and when he got to Iraq, it was September 10th. 2001.
Weird.
The next day, he woke up and, he was seeing on the news the buildings falling down and everything. And he's like, oh,
Time to go.
this might not be the best place for me to be right now.
Time to go. So we're going to be talking
You
about.
know, an interesting thing was that day that they shot the towers down. The next morning, I saw in the sky the crescent moon and the little star.
I did too, Doc. I did too, because I worked midnights, right? And we were all out in what we call a big yard, right? And I brought my lieutenant out at the time, and I said, "You have to see." I called him on the radio. I go, "Lou, can you 25 the yard?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll be right out there." And that means to come outside. And he comes out there. I said, "Look at that moon." He goes, "Oh my God!" And he was ex-military, and he's like this. He goes, "Oh my God." He goes, "That looks exactly like it." And I said, "Oh, isn't it like a weird sign?" And that's when all the planes, no planes, you didn't hear nothing. And where I worked at was near Midway Airport, and you could not hear a plane.
Extremely airy. No airplane sound at all for a long time.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Doc. I remember that.
Another thing about that too, there was a news report that a guy in Boston Airport had gotten in an argument with them, but nobody intervened. And so they just continued on their course.
Really weird.
Oh.
So many things happened after that. We're actually going to be talking with a guy tomorrow. We're going to be actually talking about 9/11.
That's a good post.
Oh, wow.
And all the conspiracy on that. Well, we're actually going to be talking about the Pentagon. I like to take one little piece of something and try to get as in depth as we can, because the whole thing is at least a 3-4 hour talk if you wanted to do the whole thing, or even days. But we're going to get into that tomorrow. But we brought you in, Doc. And so I want you to, number one, I want to talk about what perceptual hypnosis and how it differs from traditional hypnosis. But I also want to show your book first. All right. Perceptual Hypnosis, a spiritual journey toward expanding awareness. By you, Doc.
There's a CD in the back that's an exercise, a hypnosis exercise, a meditation hypnosis exercise in the back that I put in there.
You know what? I ordered mine on Thursday, and it hasn't come yet. And so I did not know that there was a CD in the back. Yeah, I'm definitely.
And it's not like just a regurgitation of the book. It's actually exercise, a couple of small exercises and a 50-minute exercise to help you.
Okay.
Are they like hypnosis recordings, like an induction?
Hypnosis meditation recording oriented toward the spiritual, enhancing spiritual things.
Okay.
Doc, let me ask you a question.
Cool.
How did you get into learning about the spiritual realm, ghosts, paranormal, supernatural? What happened to you that started to guide you down that road?
I think it was just experiences that I had, little experiences here and there that were just kind of they just kind of pointed me in the direction that there's something more going on than I think there is, and an example would be I had traced my family history in my Woodard side all the way back to Joshua Woodard in Pittsford, Vermont, who was like my 5th or 6th great grandfather, and his son was Captain Amos Woodard. And I had traced everybody up to Captain Amos and everybody back from up to Joshua, but I couldn't make the connection. So I was in the Concord State Library, their genealogy library, and I was trying to find the stuff, and I ran out, and that was it. It was a dead end. And there was 3 old men sitting in the corner whispering to each other. And suddenly one of the guy's voices, as loud as could be, was in my head. And it said, "Check the land deeds." So I went to the Mormon library in Nashua, and I ordered the land deeds from Pittsford, Vermont. And one of the land deeds actually said, "Widow Mary Woodard selling to her son, Captain Amos Woodard."
Wow. So
and that wasn't normal for them to put the relationships down.
No.
So it was it was incredible that happened. And it was things like that that happened, little things like that would make me say something's going on, something more is going on in the world than my newer book, The Developing Your Supernatural Awareness. I have two guidelines. One is that a person either hears the something or sees something that later is real, truly real, or they change who they are after the experience, which also points out it's real.
Yeah, and here's your new book. Here's your new book, Developing Supernatural Awareness, Connecting with an Interactive Universe. That's your newer book, correct?
Yes, that comes out at the end of March.
Oh, that'll come out at the end of March. Okay.
Yeah, you can pre-order it on Amazon.
You can pre-order that on Amazon. All right, let's get back to perceptual hypnosis, and how does it differ from traditional hypnosis?
One of the keys is that I see it as differentiation rather than dissociation. It's like choosing to focus on something rather than taking yourself away from things.
Okay.
It has a negative connotation.
Right.
You know, where when you focus on something, then you're just focused on that. And that experience I described in the library, that was done unnaturally. I didn't make that happen, but I became completely focused on what was happening in my head. And so I was not thinking about anything else when that experience happened.
I actually had something kind of similar to you, because everything's perception, as you're talking about. It's our perception, how we think.
Yeah.
So one of the things that happened with me one time, I was at work. My mom passed about 4 or 5 years ago, right? And I'm going to share this story with you. It's kind of like you're deep thinking on a subject, and then all of a sudden this answer comes to you in your head, right? So I was thinking about, man, one thing I'm going to miss about my mom is getting a birthday card from her every year. My mom every year sent me a birthday card with $20 in it. And it's not that it was the $20 that mattered. It was the idea that my mom still sent me birthday cards. So I sat there thinking about how much I was going to miss that. Now, what I'm going to tell you is true story. This is totally true. I'm in my little office space, and I see something fall from the back end of the room. And it hits the ground. I said, I'll pick it up on the way out. So at the end of the day, I went to go pick it up on the way out, and I grabbed this little piece of paper, and I turned it upside down. It was a homemade happy birthday card. And because it was the day before my birthday, I said, man, I'm going to really miss my mom never saying that. Could it be my perception, my thought, reaching out into the universe, and all of a sudden I get an answer? What do you think, Doc?
You know, so like Carl Jung had an experience like that, many, but one of the most famous ones was he had a picture of a friend, and the picture fell down off his bookcase, and he wrote down the exact moment, the time that the picture fell and broke. Yeah. And that was the time that the guy died.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
He called that an asynchronistic event, meaning it had incredible meaning, but we can't always tell what it is right away.
Wow. That's amazing. When things like that, I to the person, like the individual, like myself, or to yourself, it's not something crazy. It's meaningful. It's very meaningful to that individual.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. And it doesn't have to mean anything to anyone else. In my new book, I actually put the word subjective truth as an example of one of the things that's true, because what happens is people have experiences and then they become real. They think them in their head, or they see them in their head, and then they're real. And it doesn't matter to anybody else but them, but it proves to them something's going on in the universe, something big, because it was important for them.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and an example would be this woman, her and her sister were at their father's house trying to find his insurance documents, and they finally gave up. They couldn't find them. And so she was home, and she was laying down to go to sleep, and she smelled her father's cigar smoke, and she looked down at the end of her bed, and there was her father, and he said, "Check the coin savers. The insurance documents are in the coin savers." Well, they went over there a couple days later, and sure enough, that's where the insurance documents were.
Yeah, it's amazing. Some of those stories are so amazing. You know, the power that is behind a force like that these things happen, these phenomenons happen. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
And I've heard other people's stories. Do you have anything for the doctor?
So when somebody comes to you, doctor, like, do you see people for a wide variety of things?
Yes, I see people for a lot of clinical psych stuff. So I'm a psychologist, so I see a lot of people for psychological stuff. There's a lot of people that come to me because they know I'm open to the paranormal, but that's a side piece to what they're doing.
Right. What is the difference between what you do and say something like what I used to do just to help people quit smoking? Like someone would come to me and go, Steve, I can't quit smoking. I am having trouble. Can you hypnotize me? You deal with much different type of
more problems, but I can also do stuff like that. I've also worked with stuff like that because I am a certified hypnotist too, and I can do stuff like that, simple stuff. And but I also do complicated stuff like PTSD, anxiety, depression, things like that. I work with those bipolar, some tough stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Stuff that I wouldn't be able to touch as a board certified, or a NGH hypnotist. But
and
but
I also see that on occasion you can have somebody that really thinks they're psychic, but they're not. And then a lot of times when you have somebody that is, they are. And I make an analogy. It's like if I have a garage next to my office, and I say to people, well, if you walked out of the door and you kept thinking there was a cougar in the backyard, but there isn't, you'll never see it. But if you walk out of the back door and you have intuition, you're going to have a gut punch to your gut that's going to say there's a cougar there, and then you're going to see it. And it's a different feeling than fear. Fear has no basis.
It's a knowing.
Intuition does.
Yeah, it's the best way I explain it is like for myself, because I'm an empath, is that you just know it's a feeling. It's when I get voices in my left ear, and then I get impressions and I get emotions and stuff like that, and you know that it's real because it's like an emotion. You're taking on something else's emotions or some other person's emotions. And when you do this, you're able to differentiate the truth from the lie on this. If it's a manipulative spirit, or if it's a spirit that's truly, truly wanting, it has a thought and a need to get a message across to someone. It's very interesting when it does happen.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
So the other thing I was going to ask you is, so we were talking earlier, and I just want to get your answer on this. Do you find that there's a fine line between possession and a psych disorder?
There can be. There can be. But there's some people that don't believe in possession when it really happens. And there's some people that don't believe in psychotic stuff when there is really psychotic stuff. And so both exist in the world, I think.
Yeah. And I'm glad that someone like yourself is out there who has a very open mind instead of, a singular mind on a thought of something. Because when I first started working with certain kinds of criminals and stuff like that, and I'm not going to lie to you, I just thought they were all just bat nuts crazy. I didn't pay attention. I was only 22 years old. And after some time, and you start to learn these things as you're going along, you start to learn to differentiate that there might be someone else driving this car, and it's not that individual.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah, it's come across sometimes. So you do believe that there is a kind of possibly a fine line between that, then?
Yes, I do. Between the spiritual and the psychological, they're not always the same.
Right. And how does perceptual hypnosis affect one's perception of reality?
Well, it's supposed to enhance your awareness. It enhances your ability to be more aware, more conscious, more like, for example, I remember I was walking one time on a rail trail with two of my German shepherds. At the time, it was my mother, Shadow, and her baby, Kiera, who was 2 years old. And I had a professor with me, and he was talking politics, and I wasn't interested. And the dogs were sniffing the ground. They were really intense on the ground. And up about 100 yards, there were two bobcats that crossed the path, and I saw them. And they just kept going. They weren't interested in anything. And I would have never seen them if I was too focused on something else.
Mm-hmm.
So being aware is being able to be open to your environment.
Right? No, I totally get it. Yeah.
You're more flexible with that. Sometimes you need to focus on something and not be able to see anything else, but sometimes you need to be more open so you can see what's moving around.
Right. I agree. I agree with that completely. Steve, what you got?
I'm kind of going in a couple of directions in my mind with questions to ask. And I guess I want to get your thoughts on this. What is the difference between consciousness and subconsciousness?
That's an interesting question, because I would say sometimes the unconscious is operating on its own at a deeper level, and you're not always aware of it, where your conscious mind can be ignorant. It can be stupid. It can be something that isn't always aware of the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
are they both us? Like
they're both part of us, I think. Yeah, when they're working together, everything works together. When it's working together, it's all good. When it's not working together, that's when we have problems.
Okay.
And that's when, people have problems. And for example, I would say the spiritual, the historical, and the behavioral, they all work together. But when they're not working together, someone's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's trying to be everything, and they're not.
Do you think,
Right.
like what Steve is talking about also, regression therapy?
Oh.
Is there, when that starts to happen, is it that we're starting to come together then?
Are you talking about past life regression?
Like past life regression.
Okay, right.
Are we coming together?
I had a really famous author who was a psychologist in a big university setting, and he was talking to me about how he had listened to this recording, and it was a social worker who had a woman who she was regressing. And all of a sudden, from nowhere, with no reason to say this, she said, "So where's he touching you?"
Wow.
And there was nothing before that suggested that was even happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that just ruined the whole experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, the bill, gotta go.
Because you can't take things beyond what they're supposed to be, which is like going very slowly and cautiously, staying within the realms of what the person's saying. When I did my interviews for both my books, that's what I used, was phenomenological interviewing, which is really staying very close to the client's words and not saying that you know anything. It's
Right.
like letting them just tell you. Like, I don't know anything about this, you tell me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, the other thing is, though, is what I'm asking, though, is during regression therapy, do the subconscious and the conscious mindsets come together as one, and they're able to, like you said,
Well, they can when they're in a healthy place.
okay,
But if they're in conflict, then you're going to get mixed messages and mixed communication, which isn't going to be clear. It's going to be confusing.
Right.
So we had some deep talks about afterlife the other day, and it's still such a broad subject, and you like to know everybody's little what they think about the subject, or the perception of the subject, if you will.
Well, an example in my book, I have an image of spiritual. In my hypnosis book, I have an image of spiritual vampires, and I also have some ideas like that one there that you're talking about, truth in the center, and all the distractions that can pull them away. And the idea is that, you know, there is truth, but finding it isn't easy.
Right. You have to go under layers and layers to find the truth. Am I right?
Right. And I think sometimes at first you could be under hypnosis and you think you're getting the truth and you're not. But then over time you start to get to the truth because you let go of all the fantasy stuff. And that can take time. That takes time, and people have to be patient for that sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And getting to the truth is, in a sense, the subconscious and the conscious mind coming together and working together.
Yes.
So from somebody who would come in and say they want to lose weight or they want to quit smoking, to I have some really deep issues that I need to have psychotherapy for. All of these issues that we have in life are just about working together with having our conscious mind and our unconscious mind working together. That's our goal.
Hopefully, sometimes your unconscious mind can come forward and give you a truth that your conscious mind doesn't want to hear.
Right. The resistance. Right.
Your conscious mind might have a truth that your unconscious mind doesn't want to acknowledge.
Right.
So it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. It's a case by case situation, and I'm really a big individualist. And all the famous people, Milton Erickson, Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, they were all individualists. Mm-hmm. They were all very individual, and they always said that. But yet, all their work was systemized.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, but that's not what they wanted.
Yeah, it can't be, because consciousness is a personal experience. What happens with us?
I remember Milton Erickson given a case of this couple that couldn't get pregnant, and so he got them to sit down and he said, I want you guys to sit here for a few minutes and think about whether you can do what I say exactly the way I say it. And then he left the room. And he told this in front of hundreds of doctors, medical doctors. And so then he comes in and he says, okay, are you ready? Do you decide that you want to do what I'm going to say? And they both said yes. And he said, okay, good. I want you to not say a word to each other. I want you to go home. And they got pregnant. And
nice.
And they got pregnant. And you know, the thing is, he was addressing the problem. Well, the doctors started murmuring, and he said, we're not here for us. We're here for our patients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, man, I agree with that one.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
but it's like it's what he said, you know, yeah. And he wanted them to let go so that they could enjoy themselves, so they wouldn't have all the stress that went with it, and then they'd have the experience that they needed.
He spoke the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know? That's basically what he did. He said, this is what you need to do, get it done, and come back the next day. Tell me all about it. So one of the other things is, go ahead, Steve, you had something else?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I just got, before we lose track of like conscious, subconscious, we were talking about spiritual stuff. We were talking about like more than just the mind, right? Like a spirit component. Where does the subconscious and conscious mind enter the picture with spirit? Are they components of spirit?
I would say that my new book, that Developing Your Supernatural Awareness, there's several themes in several of my chapters that address just that. It's a thought that comes out of nowhere. It's a thought that comes out of nowhere. It doesn't have a form, or there's no connection to what you were thinking before. It just comes in because your subconscious, your unconscious, it wants to share something, and it doesn't care what you're talking about or what you're thinking about. And that's the reason that it works that way, I think, because sometimes they're not together.
Is spirit a third component then of all of this, or this?
It's a part of it. It's
Okay.
like, one of the things that I did kind of agree with in the Bible was when they talked about like the spirit part of God. There was the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The
Mhm.
Holy Ghost is probably the real thing.
Yeah. They don't usually use the word Holy Ghost anymore, anyways.
Yeah, but I mean that aspect
Yeah.
of experience
Right.
is I think very real. In
And-
that it speaks to a lot of things. I remember I had a client that was kind of negative, but I saw her maybe 6 times, and then I bumped into her in the post office, and I was deciding on whether I was going to get a German Shepherd or a Ridgeback, and she asked me what I had chosen, and I told her, and she said 2 years. You'll get it in 2 years. And I don't think that was her telling me that. I think it was something greater. And the idea was that I put a down payment with my breeder on the day after Thanksgiving. And 2 years later, the day after Thanksgiving, I picked up my dog.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It was a pure black German Shepherd.
How many German Shepherds do you got, sir?
2.
Oh, 2. Okay.
They're both black, but the black ones are hard to get.
Oh,
So-
really?
Oh.
I don't know.
Are you saying that the spirit spoke through her?
Well,
Is
the
that-
old Greeks and Romans used to say that when you met a stranger, and this was centuries ago, to be respectful, because you never know when you meet a goddess or a god. And I
Right.
think that was that part of them. It wasn't
Wow.
like a physical part. It was the idea that through them could come a message that's really important.
Oh, I'm
Right.
a big believer in that. I'm a big believer.
So the Holy Spirit, I mean, we go to biblical stuff, which I'm all for. I'm not a Bible thumper. I can't quote the
I'm
Bible.
not either, but
Um,
I believe
but
in the basics.
Right. Before, I mean, Christ was somewhere in the Bible. Again, I don't know where. I recall remembering reading something to the fact that he told his disciples not to worry, for he will send a helper. Um, or after he's gone, right? He'll still be with us, and that's he was referring to the Holy Spirit, I believe, if I'm not wrong. And I'm curious if that Holy Spirit, when it comes to consciousness, is that something that we should talk about a little bit more, because we talk about.
I think that's a big part of it. I think that's a big part of it, because I think that's how people work. I remember one time when I was young, I went out one night with a couple of my female cousins, and we went drinking and dancing. And then I went to drive home, and I was 50 miles away from where they were. And my car broke down, and it was 33 degrees. It was March, and it was like 33 degrees. So it was raining like ice, he came to the AAA guy came to pick me up, and he said, well, I can only take you to the station. I got too many calls. So I started hitchhiking. Nobody picked me up. So I started walking, and then this car drove up, and the passenger door opened up, and the guy said, get in. You won't be able to talk, but you'll be okay. Get in. And I got in. And then he said, if you are going to go this way and I'm going this way, put your hand up, a motion to me. But I was able to talk by the time that happened. And as he got to the point where he was going to go this way and I was going to go that way, he went the way I was going to go and said, oh, I'm going to take you home. And he took me all the way to my house, and 50 miles, whatever. It was pretty much close to that, 49, 50 miles, whatever. And he took me to my house, and then when I got out, he said, just take care of people the way I took care of you.
Mm.
Wow. To be honest with you, number one, that's a scary thing to do is to hitchhike. And
Well, that was back in the day, and you know what the thing was? It was like 3:30 in the morning, and
Yeah.
at 4 o'clock in the morning, and and he picked me up and took me home, got me
See,
safe.
I'd be like, take me to Neil's house so he thinks I live there. I don't know if the guy who picked me up hitchhiking, I don't know where I
I
live.
had roommates. I had a lot of roommates, but nobody answered the phone. I tried to call them. I tried to call my family. I tried to call a bunch of people. Nobody
Yeah.
answered the phone.
That's really cool of the guy to take you there. You think he was just led? He was
I
having
think
his own
he knew.
spiritual.
I think he knew what was going on,
Uh-huh.
and he knew I was close to hypothermia,
oh dear Lord.
Uh-huh.
and he took me
Right.
home. He
You're-
took care of me, and
You were blessed. You were blessed that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. yes,
That's
not all the time, but that day, yes.
not all the times.
There's been times where I think everybody's had like they did something out of character to help somebody.
And I
They
think
didn't know
that's
why.
that
You know?
part of the person. That's that
Yeah.
part of of his person. It's the
Mhm.
Holy Ghost part, the Holy
Right.
Spirit part. That's either coming from him or coming from somewhere else that says you got to help him.
Right.
Help him.
Right. It's like if you were to look at it from I don't know
And
if it's a hypnotic command.
I had another incident where I went into a store when I was an undergrad in college to buy a soda, and I was thinking about my uncle who died in the war, and I was he was supposed to look after people and everything, and I said, well, maybe he's not doing that. Maybe he's not really doing that. And then I went and got my soda, and in my change I got a World War II nickel. And those are very rare, very rare. You can barely get those. And I said to myself, maybe I ought to just not make this decision. I ought to have an open mind, and I'll let that happen later. And I also had an experience where I went to this woman's house. I used to go to this clinic. It was a psychological and spiritual clinic, and there was a lot of talk about this black woman who was a medium, an older woman who was a medium, and she was really good. And so this woman said, "Oh, I live right there down there. You can come to my house. I'll actually do a reading for you. I'll do an astrology reading for you. We can have dinner, and then we can go there." And so I said, okay. And I was like maybe 21, and she was in her 40s. And so I went down there, and she kept hitting on me the whole time.
Nice.
And so then I didn't like that because I didn't want that to happen. And so what happened was we went to the house of the medium was there, and she started to go upstairs to use the bathroom. And she got halfway up and she squealed and said, "Oh my God, a nail went through my shoe." And the medium looked at her and said, "That was a warning. You never use spiritual knowledge for your own gain." And then she looked at me and she said, "That was for you to witness. Like, don't you do that." And she was incredibly good. And later she actually even talked about my uncle and didn't know anything about me. Nothing about me.
Oh, wow!
It's always interesting when somebody who does have that really strong mediumship or psychic ability that they don't even know you, and they're able to pull things out of the clouds and just tell you things about things. About
right.
family.
And so she didn't know anything about, like, consciously about what had happened before with the person at their house when she was trying to make me dinner and give me this reading and just take advantage of me.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he said that was a warning.
Yeah.
Mrs. Robinson. Sorry.
Let me ask you this. Can anyone undergo perceptual hypnosis? Or does it have to be a certain kind of person, or can everybody go through?
Perceptual hypnosis is an aspect of how I describe the hypnosis, how I understand it. But like I said, differentiation versus dissociation. using more of a spiritual approach. It's not that it's totally different than everything. It's just the understanding of how hypnosis works is different.
Okay.
Right. For example, back to the quitting smoking thing, you don't hypnotize somebody to not quit smoking, right? As you're talking about in the beginning, it's a perceptual. What do you want them to do? What do they want?
Right.
Not what you're moving away from, but what you want to move towards.
Well, both.
And
It's like you kind of remove things. Like I teach people to erase things from their mind. But if you can really erase something, it's gone. It's not there.
right. I remember talking to Larry Garrett, the
I'm not
hypnotist.
saying, and I'm not saying something unethical. Like I had an old man one time come to me and say, I want to forget something. I want you to erase it from my mind. And I said, I can't do that. It's always going to be a part of you.
Right.
Yeah, I can't do that. But I can make it so someone doesn't think about cigarettes.
Right.
You know?
I asked the hypnotist about brainwashing. Isn't it just brainwashing? Goes, yeah, it's absolutely brainwashing. I'm cleaning your mind. I'm washing your mind. I'm removing away,
Well, that's a negative
taking
way
away.
of discussing it, though. That's a negative way of discussing it, though.
But I brought it up to him that way, and without it was kind of cool the way he responded. He saw like that part of me that wanted to resist hypnosis, right? Asking questions in the beginning. Well, isn't that brainwashing? And like an old pro, he's like, yes, it is. It's brainwashing. I'm cleaning your mind. I'm washing away the things you don't want. And
But that's the things you don't want.
Right, exactly.
Not the things he doesn't want.
Exactly. And
Which
it's
is
not that
when you have
he's
a bad hypnotist, it's somebody that's doing their own thing or trying to get you to realize that they're in power, not you.
Right. That's a tricky thing too, because you get a narcissist person that you believe it's not a therapeutic process anymore. It's a control, a mind control
Right.
thing, and not therapy.
That doesn't really work real well.
Oh no, it doesn't.
And
the
usually
government all the time with television, right?
Those people usually bump into people that resist them really well. Like that's where the hands open up and go, oh no, you can't hypnotize me.
Right. Would you consider television as a form of hypnosis or mind control?
Yes. What's his name? A famous hypnotist said that. Esther Brooks, perhaps he had made a comment that the real indirectly he said there are other forms of hypnosis that don't use hypnosis like television.
Yes.
Like we've dabbled in the subject of MK Ultra. I'm assuming that you're familiar with MK Ultra, the mind control program that happened through the government
beginning in the early 60s.
I think I read a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the late 50s actually.
Late 50s, early 60s.
I think I could be wrong. So
it's still going on today.
What's that?
It still goes on today.
Oh yeah, and
the funny thing is, it's sort of like it's sort of like a conspiracy theory with Mel Gibson. It's like you're going to bump into that guy that won't work. It won't work.
So here you actually bring up a very good point. Here is there can there be like a Manchurian type candidate, someone who opens up and is able to do something that's not in the norm of their life by suggestion, by using a word?
I don't know about that. I wouldn't do anything like that.
I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you.
No, I know. I'm saying I wouldn't be open to that. So I don't see that as a valid point. It's like if somebody does do that, they have the belief of the people that they're doing good, even if they're not, and then they're misleading people down the road, and that can be scary.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you on that. That there's evil mind behind something like that, evil feelings behind something like that. But in as a generalized question, can somebody do something like that where they can make suggestion?
Yeah, they're called demons, Neil. I mean, if you think about it, you're like going about your life, some of the stories that we've talked about, like the guy from Amityville, right? Who does that? Like, you're kind of just like a normal guy, and then all of a sudden you're shooting people, you know.
Uh,
Maybe that's a bad example, but you have people who are just compelled. There's a voice in their head, and it's telling them to do something and become something that they're not. So yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
Well, in an open-minded way, I've read stuff that other countries are better at handling these kind of things than our country. They're better at handling them because they have an open mind and they see people that are schizophrenic as maybe people that are on the dark side and need to be brought back to the white side or the light side.
Mhm.
And we don't do that. We just medicate people and
Oh, yeah.
and control them
Mhm.
in a,
Right.
in a psychological medical aspect.
Mhm.
But people care. It doesn't mean doctors don't care. There's a lot of good doctors,
Oh,
and they
yeah,
really care about those people. Care about people, but there are people that don't. There are people that just care about themselves too. So
Oh, yeah.
there are both.
Yeah.
Where does the ego come into play? Like, we're talking about the dark side, and I've heard some people talk about ego as being the demon, the voice, the devil, that
Well, the
type of
ego
thing.
is necessary, but only to a point.
Right. Is it the
It's
source of
necessary.
evil in people?
I don't think the ego is that. I think it was when you go beyond that, it would be evil. I don't think that the ego is evil. The ego
Okay.
is part of every person and it's necessary. But there are people that aren't smart, and the people that aren't smart don't know better.
Right.
It's sort of like a dog that's raised the wrong way. It might bark and want to bite at people, and if you didn't train it right, it would.
Hmm.
Yeah, very exactly. Now, what about voices? Me and Steve, we've had these talks recently, and we actually had a guest on your inner voice. Is it always you, or is it something else from the outside of the realm that could be trying to make suggestion to you?
Well, there was many authors that believed that they had connected to other authors that were on the other side, and there's even doctors that claim they connected to doctors on the other side.
Doctor, what was his name? Oh my God, he was known as the modern day prophet. I'm trying to remember, but he would be able to go into a subconscious, hypnotize himself
In a trance. Okay.
and put himself in a trance and be able to talk to doctors, psychiatrists, prophets from from a long time ago, yesteryear, um, and be able to get knowledge from them. I'm trying to remember his name.
Edgar Casey?
Edgar Casey. Yes, Edgar Casey. Thank you. Mr. Edgar Casey. He would,
Doctor. Yeah.
yeah, Dr. Edgar Casey. He would fall asleep, and I believe it was his wife used to write down on a piece of paper what he would be talking.
Hypnotized originally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you think about Edgar Casey? True, or have you ever researched him?
Some of his stuff seems really relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it that I've read seems really adequate. It seems it, but you don't know if you're not that person. That's why I talk about subjective truth. It's like it's truth for you, but you can't generalize it to someone else.
Right, like in the original story that I talked about, my mom's birthday card thing. It's true
Right.
to me. And that just came off the top of my head to ask you that question about Edgar Casey. I remember reading that book. I read like 2 books on Edgar Casey when I was like, I think 19 years old. Yeah, they were actually really good, but you're a younger person, so you don't realize you could be just going down a rabbit hole or something, And but I thought it was always very interesting about like the inner thought. Like sometimes you have a thought of either going left or right or making that right decision, or maybe you made a
Well,
bad.
one of the things that I thought was sad was he apparently healed a couple people,
Yes.
and they went back to their doctors, and the doctors said they were completely okay now. Well, nobody did anything about it.
Yeah.
Nobody like investigated it. It was just
right.
they just went away.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no money in it.
Yeah. I think that
You know?
original story, he got bumped in the head. He fell down or bumped his head, or a rock hit him in the head.
Oh.
And that's how he started going into these little deep sleeps. I think that's originally how that happened. I just found it to be a very interesting story about Mr. Edgar Casey, and we should really do a show on him one day. It's a very interesting subject.
What should people be doing in terms of the concept of perceptual hypnosis, right? And self-hypnosis? What can we do for ourselves? And what should we be doing?
The self-hypnosis exercise I did in the back of the book is one of the ways I gave out information to people to help them. And I put in there everything that I thought was necessary to grow,
Mm-hmm.
And the other side of it, and the bigger side, is to slowly expand your awareness. Like you guys do a talk show and you get ideas and you talk to people, and that stimulates ideas. That helps you grow. So I work with people. That helps me grow. And everybody's different. No one's the same. So that's part of growth. It's like if you can stimulate yourself to grow, to continue to empower yourself to expand your awareness, then those things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Those things will happen. You'll grow and your awareness will expand. But if you do nothing and you hang out with all the same people that say the same stuff and there's nothing new, nothing's going to change.
You're absolutely right about that. Your misery loves company type of theory.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree with that completely. Let me ask your thoughts on life after death. Do you believe in life after death?
I've had cases that people have told me about that make it hard to believe that there isn't something after this, because of those people's experiences. And one of them was that woman that I told you about, that with the coin saver. Her father appeared to her and told her where the insurance documents were in the coin savers. And how could that happen?
Yeah.
How could those things happen? Another case I don't think it's in my book, but it was an example, was a guy that he was with his brother-in-law, and they were sitting with their father-in-law, and he was talking to his sister, which was the guy's wife who died. And he came out of it and he said, "I was just talking to your sister. There's 2 kids there." And the other guy was the husband, actually. And he started bawling. Mm-hmm. And then he said, what's going on? And he said, "We had 2 miscarriages. We never told anybody." Mm-hmm. But he said, "Those were our granddaughter. They were calling me grandpa."
Wow.
And I don't understand. And that's a hard one to not it's like think something's going on.
Right.
Wow. And then there's Ian Stevenson. Ian Stevenson had all these cases of people that died and came back, and they die and have an injury, and then they'd come back and they'd have a mark in that spot.
Right. Yeah, like a birthmark. A lot of people, they come back, like when, let's say we're born right now, and like I have a birthmark right here on my chest, right? A lot of people believe that sometimes those birthmarks are from a past life of where you died, or
exactly. And there was a story I saw on TV that was actually true. It was based on a true story. And this guy, he was a kid. He was a little kid. He couldn't read or write. And he told his parents that he was so-and-so who died in an auto accident on such and such a street. And his parents lived at such and such a street. Yeah. And his parents were 80 years old. And his current parents took him to his old parents. And when he was meeting his old parents, his uncle walked in the room and he said, "That's my uncle."
Wow, that's deep, man. That's
Mm.
deep. You know, I've heard so many crazy stories like that. Like I heard about this young boy who said that he was a World War II fighter pilot, and he knew where he crashed. He knew the coordinates, and sure as poop smells, that's exact. They researched it, and that's exactly where this one plane fell. He said that was me. It's an amazing thing. One other question I got for you, Doc, is sometimes when some of these people are in these hypnotic trances, if I'm choosing the words correctly, sir, um, have you ever had anything come out that seems angelic? And if so, did anything ever happen? And the other side of that coin, did you ever have anything that seemed malevolent?
I've had both, but they're fleeting moments.
Okay.
They're fleeting moments. I can't even remember what the people said because I didn't write it down. You know, I've had both.
Whereas it was you were just like stupefied by it. You're just like, what is going on right now?
Right.
Like that kind of a moment.
Like, yeah, it's like somebody said something that was negative, really negative, and you think to yourself, well, where did that come from? Oh my God, how did that come out? And then there's other stuff that's really prophetic or angelic. It's really incredibly caring, incredibly deeply caring.
Right.
Mhm.
I think that sometimes when we go into these hypnosis, then when our eyes close, something can easily another spirit or shall I use the word demon? I really don't like using the word demon or something malevolent slide in.
So if you're getting hypnotized, you're saying, Neil?
Yes.
Okay.
I think those could happen, but that would have to be, first off, the person's not protected.
Okay.
And secondly, it just slides in, but they have to protect themselves. That's important. I try to get people to protect themselves before they get started, to put a light around themselves, a protective shield.
Yeah. Walk us through how they would do that. How would you add a light around yourself?
Well, you can start with a light deep within you, and then it expands.
Inner imagination?
And
Or
I often use all the colors, the chakra colors,
Mhm.
and have them put all of those around them to protect
just
them.
in their imagination? Or how does one do that?
Picture it in your mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
you just imagine like
I
for
have an
example, a
exercise
green
on
light
my-
around your heart.
I have an exercise on my recording that does that.
Very cool. Very cool. It's in the CD in the back of the book.
Yes.
All right.
Very
All
cool.
right, Doc.
Is that in the new book coming out or the previous book?
The previous book.
The previous book.
The book, right? The one that he's talking about is the one I ordered on Thursday.
Perceptual hypnosis.
Hypnosis.
Right.
This one, spiritual journey toward expanding awareness. And then this is his newer book that's coming out. You said in March.
Yes. End of March.
Yeah, I love the cover on it. By the way, that's
Yeah,
really neat cover,
that's
dude.
beautiful. Yeah. For
I
those who
really-
are listening, it's a beautiful illustration of a heart in an ocean of water. Is that how you would
Yeah.
describe it, Doctor?
Yeah.
Yep. Is that symbolize the cleansing of the heart?
It's just symbolic of of our being. I think of love in the universe.
Mm-hmm. An ocean of love, universe.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I like it.
I really do like the cover on that. That's a very nice cover.
Mhm.
Very nice. All right, Doc. We appreciate your time. Me and Steve, we appreciate your time today.
Oh, yeah.
And because I know everybody's time is very, very important to them. Doc, do you have anything else going on that you'd like to promote?
No, just my two books. That's it. That's all. I have published a bunch of articles, but those are free in libraries that people can get. But they're more professional, psychological oriented. Phenomenology and hypnosis. A lot of them.
Do you do help with people over online, like Zoom meetings or anything like that you'd like to reach out to people?
I usually meet people in person more often than not.
Okay. And is there any way, how can someone best get a hold of you?
The best way to communicate with me is either drf WOODARD at HUSHMAIL.com, or my phone number 603-673-2582, which is my business.
Yeah, I never put up my personal. I always put up business. So, well, Doc, once again, thank you very, very much for coming on today. And Steve, do you have anything before we roll out?
I second Neil's thank you. This has been a lot of fun to talk about. And don't hitchhike it.
One down the road, too, you know.
What's that? Say it again, Doc.
Maybe we could do another one down the road.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Like I said, I understand people's time, and we're gonna definitely do another one. What I do is I keep a log of everybody that we have that we've been doing this for a while now. So we will definitely reach out to you sometime later. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your winter time, and hopefully you have a nice spring. And like always, boys and girls, remember, boo. All right.
Neil, take us out.